What's up, WordPress people? It's Jason Coleman. I'm going to be showing you today how to add additional user fields to your WordPress site. I am using the membership plugin Paid Memberships Pro, and I have a website set up with the PM Pro demo. It's a site called Must Love Dogs. It's got beautiful pictures of dogs on it. A few membership levels already set up. The membership plugin is installed. When I look in the back end, I see the membership information that PM Pro gathers by default. But let's say that my membership website here is more business oriented, and I need to collect information about my users, like their business name, their business description, and maybe the size of their business, how many employees they have. That's information that isn't gathered by default with PM Pro or any WordPress site by default. So I'll show you how to do that with Paid Memberships Pro. I'm going to, from the dashboard, go to Memberships Settings, and then go to this User Fields subtab. Now from here, I'm going to add a group. So the fields are organized by field groups, and you'll see on the profile page and the PM Pro checkout page that the fields get, show up in these group boxes. We'll just call this group field business information. And I'll step through these options one by one. So these are settings for the entire group, all the fields inside this group. Do we want them to show at checkout? In this case, we do. Do we want to show the fields on the user profile? You can say yes, or only show it on the profile when an admin is looking, for maybe some fields that admins are keeping track of for users only. Or if you want to hide it from the profile and just gather it at checkout, you would say no. I'm going to choose yes in this case. You can also show a description, like a little hint inside the box to explain, some kind of information on how to fill out those fields. I don't think it's needed. It's self-explanatory, the fields that we add, and we'll add hints for each individual field later as well. And then finally, you can restrict these fields per membership level, but in this case, I want to gather this information for all users of my site, so I'm not going to use that feature. So those are all the group settings. Now I click to add a field, and I'm going to add my fields here. Let's call this company name. And when I click tab, you'll see that the name field next to that gets auto-populated. The name field is actually the user meta key. So by default, these fields are stored into what's called user meta in WordPress. And there's a key, a meta key, that's used to reference. And that's important mostly if you're integrating with other plugins or tools that expect a specific meta key. For example, the first name field is called first_name, and WordPress uses that as the meta key for the first name. So if you wanted to add a first name field to checkout, there's other ways to do it, but you would want to make sure that that meta key is exactly what's expected. Otherwise, you can typically go with what's recommended based on your label, and just make sure that it's a single word with no spaces, although underscores are allowed. So that's good to just keep in mind later on if you interact with this through code or other plugins. For type of field, there's a few available. I'm going to choose text for the company name, and a text box is like a single line of text, right? You can make this field required or not. I'm going to say yes. The read-only field, that's useful for maybe information you want to show up on the user profile but not let users interact with. That's not the case here. And then you can also see that for each field, the next setting here, you can say, do I want this field to show up on the profile or not? The default is to inherit the group settings, which makes sense. I want all these fields in the group and just use the profile settings from the group settings. These next two options are kind of technical if you're doing design work on your website, but you can add additional CSS classes for the div element that's wrapping the field or for the field itself. And this is really only important if you have a designer trying to plug into that CSS to make it look a certain way. And like I said, there's a hint here, like an optional little text line that goes under. And maybe I'll say like use the official business name or something like that. I don't know. Let's say that I also want to get the company description. And for this one, I'm going to make this a text area. So text area is, multi-line text field at checkout. We're going to require this field as well. keep the settings the same. And maybe this is a field you want to have options like what specifically do you mean by description? I'm in my case here, how does your company help dogs? I don't know. All right, next one, the size of the company. So I'm going to say like company size and keep the default meta key. And for this, I'm going to make a select, like a drop-down field. And this is the first field we have with options. So for this, I'm going to do one option per line, and these options will show up. Maybe, it's like 1 to 5 people, maybe 6 to 10 people, or like 10 plus people. And we'll see that at checkout. And once I'm finished here, you also, for these options, can use this format of value : label if you want the labels to be different from the value that's stored in the database. So if I'm linking this to some other database and these fields have to be like 1, 2, 3 or ABC to link up with that database, but the label should be 1 to 5 people, I could configure that this way as well. But I'm going to keep it simple for now. I'll scroll back up and click Save All Changes. And now these user fields are saved. And what we'll find is on the front end of the website, when I go to checkout, if I scroll down, I'll see that I now have business information, the company name, the company description, and the company size as a dropdown, as additional fields at checkout. And we'll also see from the front end using Paid Memberships Pro, there's an account page, and there's also a front end profile page. So if I click Edit Profile on the front end, again, the business information fields are showing up on this page where where users can update their own profile. And also for admins in the back end, if I go to users and click to edit a user, these same fields will show up here. When I scroll down, here's the business information fields. So hopefully that was helpful for you. And if you need to add additional fields to your WordPress site, consider using Paid Memberships Pro, not just for its membership functionality, but for this feature here where you can, through their user interface, add additional user fields. Thanks.